Hello, everyone, and welcome back. I hope you enjoyed a little bit more structured time chatting with your fellow SICSS-Howard Mathematica team members. We're going to spend this 15 minutes before your break in group discussion. We are going to try to use the function where you raise your hands in order to participate. I'm going to throw out the same questions that you talked about in your groups, and let's see what came up in your group. So the initial prompt was, what do you think is computational social science is? What are the things that are most exciting about computational social science for you? And are there specific computational social science studies that you find particularly beautiful or inspiring? So we can start there. We could jump to the other questions also, which were, what do you hope to get out of SICSS? What would make our time successful? And then I threw out diversity. So let's open up the floor to hear about what was exciting in your group discussions. So feel free to go ahead and raise your hand. Let's hear about what happened in your groups. Okay, let's go with Genera. Am I pronouncing your name properly?
Yeah, perfect, thank you. And we're in the same group, so.
Hey!
So I was just gonna say, so we ended up, we started with the prompt, so then we really got into our research. And so there were some synergies for some of the other group members. My research, I feel like, was a little bit more different, but we had a really interesting conversation about our research. And yeah, I'm just really excited to now know my group mates and keep in touch with them and get to watch what they go on to do, because they're doing really important work.
Thank you for starting us off, Genera. Love that leadership and courage in the space. Kimberly, you're next.
Yeah, so like we all were talking about our research and how we plan to use data science and everything like that. But then we kind of went off the prompts and started talking about ethics. And I found that to be really, really interesting, because as somebody who wants to use Twitter data for my own purposes, we were talking about the ethics of Twitter data, the ethics of how you get the Twitter data. If you do manage to get the developer license, which I did, then if you kind of wave your hand at the terms of service and say, this is their site, this is how they said to do it, I'm in the clear. But at the same time, how there's, Jeremy had raised a really, really good point about, no matter what, there's going to be some kind of detraction from that, because the people whose individual tweets you're using don't necessarily know that you're using them, right? And you're not going to go to all, however many million people and get them each to sign this sort of thing. You just kind of hope that the IRB will cover you if you need one at all. But then on top of that, I wanted to raise the point too, the idea of what you do with that data, because it's one thing for me, like I said before, to cite Kanye West and say, oh, well, Kanye West said this, and it's public, it's on the news, perhaps, whatever he said is public knowledge. So it's no big secret that's going to get him into trouble in 5 years. But also having worked as a forensic linguist in dealing with death row cases and language evidence in that sense, I have seen all kinds of things be used as evidence against people from, that seem innocuous at the time. Or maybe not even just evidence. Maybe, this is some kind of just a burner account, or like, a Finsta, for lack of a better term, we're talking about Twitter. And then, in a couple of years, somebody can identify them, read this research, find them out. And now maybe they're in some kind of trouble with their family, their peoples, whoever it is, because this tweet that maybe they even deleted after I mined it, is now public knowledge because I decided to cite them improperly. So it's kind of, there are a lot of things to consider. That's where our conversation is going.
Which group were you in? It sounds like your group had fun, Kimberly.
Oh yeah, I think were we in the Biggie group? Which group were we in?
Biggie. All right.
Yeah.
Marissa, you're next.
Yes, thank you. So we had some really good conversations about our research, and we did talk about biases within data and how that impacts some of the questions that we're really interested in. But one of the main things we took away from our conversation of understanding what is computational social sciences is seen as a kind of like as a method or a means to an end. So one thing that we discussed is that all of our research interests are about things related to either health disparities or kind of disparities within news. And also one of our group mates was talking about doing work and kind of doing work within the continent of Africa and using public data to do so. So really underscores that our research questions are driving our methods and not the other way around. And that's one thing I do really appreciate about this location is that we all came in with we study race, we study linguistics, we study health and health disparities, we study news, we study Black Twitter. No one came in saying, I am a computational science, social science, I just want to learn all the cool things I can do with computational stuff. And I think that's really important about this location, about how we're approaching it. We're saying we're using this as a method to get to our research question and thinking about all the different ways that we can use computational social science to aggregate data, to collect data in order to answer social questions surrounding race.
Thank you, Marissa. Todd, you're up next. And then we have Nicole.
Sure. I really enjoyed our group conversation. I started out by discussing the way I view computational social science as a big tent or an umbrella that is very capacious with, as I think Matt Salganik mentioned, if he tried to define it 10 years ago, he would have been very wrong. And I really appreciated what everyone shared. I think Yesh shared something particularly interesting where he said for him, the umbrella is actually bent and kind of broken out of shape if you had an umbrella and you kind of break one of the twines, and so it's kind of wonky. And what he explained with that is that computational social science is at a stage where there can be a lot of distortion, there can be particular groups that dominate the field, and that it's still not quite settled and it's still not quite clear what that umbrella will look like itself. So I thought that was really great. We also talked a little bit about the question of like whether certain data should even be collected or stored, and that tension between the kind of what Kimberly mentioned about the ethical implications of people's data just being out there and the use for our particular research questions. And for me personally, there is a study that I would love to do with some data on pre-service teacher teaching transcripts from a teacher simulator. And that would be looking at the race of different student avatars within the simulator and how teachers respond to that, or pre-service teachers respond to that, as well as examining the Crown Act, which is something that Nicole is also interested in. So I think really enjoyed the conversation, and both the ethical and specific applications are exciting.
Thank you, Todd. I am excited to hear people's research ideas bubbling forward and hoping, and I know this has happened to me already when I mentioned my interest in privacy, cybersecurity, and surveillance. I'm hearing from folks in the group who also have those interests. So please feel free when you have the mic to talk about your research and collaboration that you're looking for. I'm excited about our afternoon activity after you all get a break. You're going to do battle with some of these questions about where you get your data from. It's a really interesting case study that I think you're going to enjoy. So we have about 6 minutes left. You know I'm a fan of giving you back your time, so I will leave it up to the group. If there are any hands to be raised, we will call on them, and we'd love to hear your experience in your groups. I'm also happy to give you 36 minutes of break instead of just 30, and to give you a chance to get some lunch ahead of our conversation with SICSS alums. So are there any other hands from the field? And just know we'll be talking about ethics and what is computational social science over this entire 2 weeks. So this is the start and not the conclusion of this discussion. Seeing no hands from the field, I am going to call a break into existence. We're going to log the entire system out to fix the difficulty that we had with you all getting into breakout rooms. So please log out, and we will see you in 35 minutes. We will reconvene at 12 o'clock for your lunchtime bite-sized talk on how to get the most out of SICSS. See you all shortly. Thank you all for watching. For more information on SICSS-Howard Mathematica, visit our website, follow us on social media, and join our email list.